What we're going to look at this morning is what we've been studying in the book of Revelation. This morning, I hope you find it interesting. There's some things in here that maybe you never understood before, but hopefully you will this morning. Revelation, if you would, chapter 10. Revelation chapter 10. Now, who's been listening and know where we're at in the tribulation? Are we in the tribulation? No, we're in heaven. We've been raptured. But the people that are left here on this earth are going through some real problems and difficulties. We're about halfway through the tribulation at this point, and Antichrist is leading the world. They think he's the greatest thing since Obama. And everybody will be listening. Everybody will be following him and think that he's got all the answers. Revelation chapter 10, we've gone through the 7 seals. Every time Jesus opened a seal, something happened bad on this earth. We've had 6 trumpets. There's 7 altogether. But we're going to look and see the trumpet judgments. And then there's one that follows it. It's called the bowl judgments. It's immediately after the 7 trumpets sound. Let's look at this and see if we can figure it out together. I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud and a rainbow upon his head. His face were like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. Now, if you look at this, some people say it's Jesus. What do you think? Can't be. First of all, Jesus isn't an angel, right? Secondly, it says he came down from heaven. If Jesus came down from heaven, we have 2 second comings, wouldn't we? It's not Jesus. It's a mighty angel. He had in his hand a little book open. He set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth. Why would the angel do that? Because this whole world is, up to this point, has been ruled by Satan, correct? He's the prince of the power of the air, and he's been in charge. This mighty angel, and I think how big this must be, he's 1 foot on the land and 1 foot on the sea. What this is demonstrating is that God is going to be in control of the whole earth. He's going to take it away. Remember the scroll that Jesus had in his hand with the 7 seals? That was the property deed to the earth. And he cried with a loud voice as when a lion roareth. And we had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write. Now, who's talking here? John. You remember the first chapter, John was told to write down the visions. So he's just doing what he's always done. He's beginning to write. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered and write them not. Why? If John's job was to write down the visions he saw, why now doesn't God want him to write them down? Any ideas? Any ideas? Basically, because God doesn't want us to know what was in the 7 thunders. And John's not to write it down. There are some things you're not going to know till you get to heaven. The angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven. Now, when you're in court and you lift your hand to God, what's that mean? What's that called? A what? Tell the truth. It's an oath, right? Or a promise. Here's the angel with his right hand lifted up to heaven. Why? and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and earth the things that therein are, and the sea things which are there, and that there should be time no longer. What he's saying is, the angel is lifting up his hand toward heaven, making an oath to say, it's done. It's finished. This is the end. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, and he hath declared to his servants the prophets. This is almost at the end of what's going on here at the earth. All we have now is the seventh trumpet and the seven bowl judgments. And they're like machine gun. The bowl judgments come one after another fast, and it's all for the people here left on the earth. And the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again. Who's he speaking to? John. And he said, Go and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. Now, if you look here, it says a little book. Before we said it was a scroll. That's what this is. The language is saying this is the scroll. This is the book that Jesus took at his right hand, and he's given it to John. What's John supposed to do? I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. He said to me, Take it and eat it up. It shall make thy belly bitter. It shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. What's he going to do with this book? He's going to eat it. And how's he going to react? In his mouth, it's what? Sweet. But in his belly, what is it? Why? It's bad news, then why would it be sweet? Okay, any other ideas? Jesus is coming soon. That's sweet for us. But for the people left on this earth, what is it? Bad news. I took the book out of the angel's hand, ate it up. It was in my mouth sweet as honey. As soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. He said unto me, This must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Did you know that John ate a book? Then you learned something this morning, didn't you? A lot of people eat paper. When you were in school, didn't kids eat paper? They chew it. Maybe it was just my class, but we'd chew it up and eat paper. But he ate the whole book. Chapter 11. This is a very interesting chapter. We're only going to get halfway through it. There was given me a reed, and like unto a rod, the angel stood saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave out. Measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. Okay? Now look at verse 3. This is the interesting part. The two witnesses. There's already 144,000 Jews that are missionaries. They're preaching, and there's people getting saved during the tribulation. There's also the people that get saved are sharing the gospel with other people they come in contact with. There's more people getting saved. Now we're going to have two preachers, two witnesses, and they're going to preach the gospel to the people. I will give power unto my two witnesses. They shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. How long is that? Who's a mathematical genius? 3.5 years. How much is the whole tribulation? Okay, what's 3.5? That's half of it. So where are we in this tribulation period? Halfway point. They're going to preach, and how are they dressed? 3-piece suits? No, they're dressed in sackcloth, humility. They're dressed in mourning. They're not trying to impress somebody. I used to go to these pastors' conferences, and I hated them because all of them were dressed in 3-piece suits. We had 3-piece suits in those days with vests, and their wives would be hanging on their arms, and they looked like prostitutes, honestly. That's what they tried to impress everybody with their looks. They had some of the biggest churches in America, but it didn't impress me a bit. Because that's not what it's all about, what you look like on Sunday morning, or what you're doing, or what your wife looks like. Most of them cheated on their wives anyhow. That's the truth. But here we go. These guys are not out to impress anybody, are they? They're there dressed like humans. Okay, verse 4. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. This refers back to Zechariah's prophecy, back in the Old Testament. If any man will hurt them, fire proceeded out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. If any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. What are they? Human beings. But there's going to be people that hate them, and you're going to see why in just a second. If anybody comes to hurt them, what do they have the capability to do? Kill them. You ever seen a flamethrower or a tank that was a flamethrower? It's a scary thing. And these guys had the ability, when somebody came to them, try to shoot them or hurt them, fire would come out of their mouths and disintegrate those people. Verse 6. These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. You know why the people of the earth hated them? There's really 2 reasons. Number 1, they said it's not going to, they have the power, it doesn't rain for 3.5 years, right? What happens with a 3.5-year drought? Famine, people die. Is everybody going to love them for that? How about turning the water to blood? It's already been turned to blood, if you remember back in, I think it's chapter 5, that the water turned to blood, the fresh water in the ocean. Okay? No fresh water, no rain, and look what the next one is. They have the power to smite the earth with all the plagues, or often as they will. Plagues. There, plagues, wherever they wanted it. Now, we don't know who these 2 witnesses are, but this verse gives you a real clue. Who wants to tell me what the clue is and who you think they are? Who went into King Ahab and said it's not going to rain for 3.5 years? You don't know. Elijah. Who was able to turn the water to blood and to see all these plagues? Moses. We can't be sure, but we think it's possibly Elijah and Moses. Who was on the Mount of Transfiguration? Okay? It's a real good shot that that's who it is. Don't bet your salvation on it, but And when they shall have finished their testimony, after how long? 3.5 years. The beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit. The beast is the Antichrist, okay? He shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. How come the beast can kill them but nobody else can? They're done. They've preached their 3.5 years. And their bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. What's the great city? Jerusalem. Which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Why is it called Sodom and Egypt? Was Sodom a godly city? It was the epitome of sin. Was the country of Egypt free of paganism and free of idolatry? No. It's called Sodom and Egypt because that's where all the sin is, majority. But really, where is it? Jerusalem, where our Savior was killed. The bodies, people and kindreds, verse 9. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. The Antichrist, who is led by Satan, kills them, and they lay in the street for 3.5 days. Now, what's the temperature, you think, in Jerusalem during the day? Hot? Do you think their bodies are rotten and stinking? Lazarus was in the grave 4 days, and his sisters told Jesus that he was stinking. They leave them in the street. Do you know what that means? The Jewish people are told to bury their people the day they die. That's why they took them off the cross and buried them right away. For 3.5 days, they laid in the street. Now look what happened. 10, and they that dwell upon the earth, that's all the unbelievers here on this earth, shall rejoice over them, make merry, shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. It's the biggest Christmas party you ever saw. Now, how can everybody see this? In John's day, did they have television? No. The whole world is going to watch these two dead, despicable, CNN would call it, preachers lying dead in the street. And what's the reaction of the people? They're happy. Why? Tell me. They were tormented, and why else are they happy? They're dead and they were preaching the gospel. You see how despicable this world is going to be? You think it's bad now. They've gone through all kinds of nonsense and plagues. All kinds of things have happened on this earth. But what do they hate most? These two witnesses and their leader, God. You think it's bad now? Just wait. Just wait. Be glad you're not going to be here. All right? And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them. They stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon all them which saw them. Now think about it. You know CNN and all the networks are going to have cameras because they want to boost their clicks. They're going to watch these two men dead in the street, and there might be an announcer there, one of the newsmen with a microphone, and he's describing the dead bodies of these two despicable people. And all of a sudden, what happens? They stood up. You think anybody was scared? Yeah. Not many of them have seen people come from the dead, but this ruins their whole perspective. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon all them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. They ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. I thought about what expression would be on the faces of these two witnesses as they're going up. What do you think? I bet they're smiling. I bet they're happy because they proved the world wrong. That was the two witnesses. So we had them that preached for 3.5 years, and there was a lot of people got saved. Now, if you look in that last verse, I closed my Bible before I should have. Look what it says. What's the last verse? Not the last verse, but the first one. Okay. No, that's fine. The same hour was there a great earthquake. How did God end this? With a great earthquake. And the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. Now with the language, it seems that they were men of dignity, honor, and position. I think, and this is just my thought, that probably these people were part of the Antichrist empire. And 7,000 of them were killed. But look what it says. And the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to God of heaven. In Jerusalem, where do all the Jews live? Jerusalem, correct? Most of them. When this happened and the 7,000 were killed, and what's it say? And the remnant which were affrighted gave glory to the God of heaven. What did the remaining Jews in Jerusalem do? Gave glory to the God in heaven. That could be, I can't swear to it, but that could be when the Jewish remnant were saved. We talked about that the Jewish people are going to come to the Lord and recognize the Messiah. This could be the point at which they do. Because giving glory to the Lord is a phrase that's used a lot of times in conjunction with their belief, with their salvation. All right? That might be where we're at. If the Jewish people come to the Lord, what happens next? Jesus comes back. Jesus comes back. That's where we're at. Any questions or comments?
That's the Antichrist will persecute the Jews because of the remnant, so they'll have to flee.
Yep. They'll flee to the mountain.
Many people flee
Petra. That's right. Any questions or comments? Did you learn anything today? All I want to do is get you to understand this book because it's very important for us to do that, and we'll be blessed. Anything else? All right, let's do our song and we'll go home.